Hey everyone, Tactics here, bringing you guys another KSM walkthrough, this time with Halls of Atonement. As with my previous KSM videos, I'll be going through the dungeon from my POV as a Guardian Druid, showing you guys the route that we use, as well as giving you any tips and tricks to complete the key in time. Note that I'll be going through this dungeon on 1.25 times speed, just for the sake of brevity, and on that note, let's just get this run started. For this first pack, this is on a fortified week, but I would recommend doing this on a tyrannical week as well. The number one thing, just getting your bloodlust on cooldown. So we triple pull right off the start. We'll get bloodlust on cooldown, and we just pop all of our cooldowns, and we go for it. This isn't actually too dangerous here. The only thing you want to keep in mind is, of course, as a melee DPS, the frontal cleaves in this pack, and then as a tank, the Gargan bleeds, and making sure that the actual Houndmaster is stunned or CC'd for that Loyal Beast cast, because that can get extremely deadly, especially on higher fortified weeks, but even on tyrannical weeks, that just makes those Gargans something that you don't want to be anywhere nearby. Moving on here, we do go right at the beginning. We pick up the Stoneborn, and we do another fairly large pack. I think it's slightly delayed here. We do these Obliterator and the Darkblade here with these Groundskeepers, and then we wait for the Houndmaster with the Gargans to pat towards us, just to kind of reduce the damage initially going out. And we'll add it to the pack at the end. Very similar pack here, Obliterator. You want to try and kick that curse. If you can't kick it, if it goes off, try and dispel it as fast as possible. Otherwise here, there is just a lot of kiting in Halls of Atonement. With those damage reductions that came in just a couple days ago, nothing in Halls of Atonement really changed, so you're still going to have to kite a decent amount for these Gargan packs. It just is that way because they just truck your tank really hard and put that scary stacking bleed on them. This right here will trigger your Prideful now, so you'll have a Prideful going into the first shard, and that's why we do that big pull at the beginning with Bloodlust. I've seen some people use Bloodlust on this shard. That's okay. I much rather have the Prideful going into it and get that Lust on cooldown a little bit earlier. We'll be dealing with that Prideful now. We'll move on to the shard pull. So every shard pull has the double Obliterator and the Collector. You need a lot of kicks for these. So if you're in a group like ours, where we have 2 ranged kicks, as you'll see, we save the ranged kicks for the actual curse attacks on the Obliterators, and then we have melee kicks on the Collectors for the ad spawns. And then from there, we just try and nuke down those Obliterators as fast as possible so they don't get a second curse. You see, we have cooldowns for this pull, we have Prideful, we get all those kicks, and then they're dead before they can cast again. So that is the goal there. Note again for the shard, if you don't know, you can outrange it. See, as our hunters are taking 0 damage from that thrash, they're just outranging it. Marksmanship hunters have a bit of an advantage, as do boomkins with the additional range. But any range class can just back up out of their range for a little bit for that thrash, just to mitigate any incoming damage. From there, we want to run across, and we have the exact same pull on the other side, double Obliterator, Collector, Shard. So you deal with this the same way, but with no cooldown. So this pull is always going to be just a tad bit scarier, especially with the lack of melee kicks like our group has. We're going to have to use CC here, things like stuns, disorients, and whatnot, just to try and get rid of those spells. And we did have one go off there. I do die here, and I think we begin kiting, just so we don't lose anyone else here. Warrior jumps out, drop my CC, and then die. Luckily, the run back is pretty close. We're able to have that go not terribly after a tank death. And we pick up these Groundskeepers, and that gives us our next Prideful. For the pack after this, You have the choice to either jump down off that ledge up here or to walk around and pull that side pack. It will depend on the affixes. So there's an argument to be made with Storming to not jump off. Spiteful, I think you never jump off with Spiteful. That's very spooky. I do jump off here with Storming just because I like doing that pull first. Especially with the Prideful buff, it makes it a lot easier, as it is a bit of a scary pull. In general, you could just skip the pull entirely and pull something else near the first boss, but I like doing this pull. I don't think it's too terribly scary. We do have defensives for it, so as you'll see when we jump down, I do get pain suppression pretty early on into the pull. And we do use CC, so I put the mobs in a spot where I know it's okay for a binding, so I'll have the range to kite still and drop my stacks. And they do just get melted here because we also pop cooldowns and see it's binding, and I can just walk right here and just hang out and not worry about the Gargans murdering me. Then we have our third shard pack. Again, same deal. They're all the same. Double Obliterator, Collector. We do have 20 seconds of Prideful for this pack, so it should make it a little bit easier than the second one. That second shard pack is always going to be the hardest one just because you don't have Prideful, you don't have cooldowns. So it can get a little sketchy. This one get a little sketchy too, but there's just a lot of damage going out here. I definitely would recommend, especially early on for the Thrashes, your tank pop a big defensive there. I'm pretty sure I popped Gravel Instincts for that first one, and I don't have anything for the second one, but things are dead. The big issue comes with Thrash going out with the 3 mobs hitting your tank. That's when tank deaths, like in the first or in the second pull, sorry, where you saw my death. That's what happened there, right? The overlap is very, very painful for tanks, so you want to make sure you have something for them. From here, to keep good prideful timings for the bosses, we'll actually skip the next bunch of packs. We were at 56%. So we come over here, we can jump over this gate, and then we can go do this pack in front of the boss. Kill this, and you'll see we actually do have Bloodlust coming up. So we're trying something a little interesting here for Fortified Week. It doesn't end up working, but we try it. I will note that. On Tyrannical Weeks, I would not use Bloodlust here. You probably would be here much quicker. You wouldn't even have Bloodlust, right? We're getting it up just as it's coming on Fortified Week. On Tyrannical Week, the trash will go much quicker. You're not going to have Bloodlust here. You don't want a Bloodlust here anyways on Tyrannical Week. You definitely want to use that on the second boss. But this first boss is not terribly hard on any week. We just use it so that it comes back for when we want to use it again later on, which I'll explain later on. So we lust as soon as it comes up here. This boss is fairly straightforward. We have no one on the tank for those crumbling slams as it does cleave. And then we have our range trying to bait in the back corner of the circle. And then once 4 puddles go out, I move a little bit just so we have room to deal with these circles. So you'll see here the 4th puddle comes out, everyone moves, and now we have a ton of room to deal with these beams. And it just kind of repeats like that. We'll let 4 more puddles go out, and we'll move the boss a little bit. And that's this guy. He's not too tough. Now, hopefully, you don't get the Beyblade bug where he just super spins or anything like that, or the other bug where the beams are invisible. This boss still has quite a few bugs on him, but I actually have yet to encounter any of them, though I've heard a lot of people seeing them. We're able to finish this guy off, and then you'll see that we actually back pull a bit. So we pull this Huntsmaster pack. We end up pulling all the trash here. And 1 more pack at the bottom of the stairs. Oh yeah, we had a slight miscommunication on this pull. I just wanted to leave the Inspiring at over there and pull all the other guys towards him. But we binding by accident. And as you see, we did let a thing go out, the Loyal Beasts. I instantly started kiting, because on Fortified Week, the Gargans with Loyal Beasts, they will absolutely nuke your tank just with their auto attacks. So pretty much, if Loyal Beast ever goes off, just immediately begin running. Finishing off this pack, then we'll have one more pack, and then we'll head off towards the second boss. We do use Invispots for this dungeon. We think it's beneficial. It makes that middle area, you just Invispot walk right through it. Obviously, if you have a rogue, you can Shroud. Otherwise, though, I mean, if you have all stealth classes, like Druids can actually make the run. So can Hunters with either Camouflage or Turtle plus Feign. They can do that. Obviously, Rogues can stealth. Druids can stealth. If you have 4 people that can then stealth and everyone but like your healer or something, you can have them death run and then res them at the end. That does work. But we just choose to Invispot. Pack's finished up. And yeah, we'll walk up and we'll just Invispot straight to the boss. Oh yeah, I think one of our DPS used a potion here by accident. Forgot about the Invispot, so he death ran at the beginning, and we res him up here. Alright, so as you see here, one of the slashers is untargetable. That means it will not aggro if you pull the other slasher. So you always want to wait for one of them to be untargetable. They will rotate. And I just wait for the res to go out, and then I pull the lone slasher, because this lone slasher is all you need. You just need one to proc your Prideful. On Tyrannical weeks, you will lust on this boss. On Fortified weeks, with what we're trying to do, we do not. As it's on cooldown, because we used on the last boss. But this boss is fairly straightforward, but there's a lot of damage going out. So one, Curse Dispels, very important, right? You can always Curse Dispel anyone with the Curse of Stone, and it helps. It'll remove the debuff so you won't get stunned. And I'll show you actually what that looks like when we actually pull the boss. I believe this is the one where our priest is actually able to dodge the impact damage. I'll show you how that works as well. Finishing off our Prideful here. No party snipes. We did it. And we're going straight into the boss. So with the timings on this boss, you see that Bloodtorn is first, so you always want to try and have your range away to bait it out, just to try and keep the middle clear. I think, yeah, it spawns on our melee anyways, is what it is. And then you have them all come in for this Stone Call, and you pretty much just stack up, and you just try and kick in any of the imps that are far away, just so it's easy to get them in this Curse of Stone. And so, as you see, I dispel the priest here, just so he can continue healing, and that means that he doesn't get stunned. So only Curse Dispels can prevent that stun, and you can do it on anyone, depending on obviously the number. We always do the healer when we only have one Curse Dispel. When we have 2, we do the healer and the person that's targeted by the leap. So as you see here, our priest, I dispel him. If he gets distance and keeps running, he can actually dodge the damage, as you see there. Much easier for not a priest, right? Like a hunter, you can disengage, mage blink, all those things, like Tiger Dash, or even just disengage from Boomkins. All those work. As a priest, he just has to run far away and use his speed bubbles and try and get out of it with the dispel, and he is able to there. But know that you can just completely avoid that damage, because it is very high damage on DPS players, especially in Tyrannical keys, and you get higher Tyrannical. It can, like, not quite one-shot, but almost one-shot, and is a bit spooky. Here we're coming into a very scary pull. This might be one of the scariest pulls in the dungeon, with the triple Gargants double Houndmaster. And there is an Inspiring on top of this, so it's very, very hard to kite. I believe we stunned it Yeah, and then we CC'd back here away from them so that I could drop my stacks. Right, and then we were just hard focusing that Inspired Gargan just to make life a little bit easier, and then we bring it all back together. Overall, definitely a spooky pull. We did not have cooldowns, as you saw. They were down by like 20 seconds. I think this is probably a good spot to pop cooldowns if we had them. But yeah, at this point, it's pretty late in the pull when they came up, so we're just saving them for the next one. I do end up dying very, very late in the pull there. That's okay, though. I can just get rezzed. And then we go. I do LOS this pull all the way to this room, the one that we were currently in. Bring it all the way back, and as you see, that's for the Venthyr thing. I 100% recommend having a Venthyr in your group. As I said in the Sanguine Depths video, Venthyr abilities for dungeons are extremely powerful. In this case, it's you get the gargoyle guys on your side, and they give a damage reduction to your entire party, which is fine, but they also just pump, as you'll see here. So you can get both Stoneborns if you just have both in range and you spam your extra action button. As you see here, our Venthyr will get both, and then we'll go up to the boss and just look at his damage. Absolutely just pump the boss with double gargoyle. Now this is without PI even. We didn't PI gargoyle here. I think we used PI on the last pack. But yeah, they just pump the boss. Now note that we are holding cooldowns at this point. You don't want to pop any big cooldowns on this boss. Alright, we noticed that the Gargans were actually giving him aggro, so that was interesting. Because you do want to keep any cooldowns for this next part that we're going to do. Again, we barely fail what we're trying to do here, but it is definitely a good strategy, especially if you have better burst classes. We're a little lacking in terms of our single target burst. Right, the hunters, they're very good at like 5 to 6 target burst, but their single target burst is a little lacking. It's not the best. Obviously, things like Boomkins, things like Fire Mage, their Windwalker, they're much better at that single target big damage burst that we're trying to do in our window. And obviously, it'll be easier on a 15, but basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to lust and pop all of our cooldowns to kill the mini-boss before he heals. So you have, I believe it's about 30 seconds to do so. You watch here, we'll get him very, very close. But we have a pretty bad comp for it with the double hunter warrior. So after this Dark Communion, you pop everything and you just try and kill him. Yeah, we get very, very close. You have exactly 30 seconds to kill him. And doesn't work out. If that doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, we were experimenting because we had so much time. It does speed up the key considerably, though, if you do that. But then we just head off. We now have to kill all these tormented souls because there's no way we beat the next 30 seconds if we didn't beat the first one. So we now have to finish these all up. These can be pretty annoying on fortified weeks with their like little fixate type thing that they do. So we drop CCs down in the middle of the room here, so anyone that needs to can run through the middle of the room. There's bindings, there's Ursuls, all those good things. So people can get rid of their manifestations, or get them off them, rather, if they need to. This does spawn our last Prideful for the final boss, and you'll definitely be lusting on the final boss here on Tyrannical weeks, because you're lusting on that first pull, you're lusting on the second boss, and then you're lusting here on the last boss with your Prideful just to get him down quickly. Yeah. Otherwise, Inquisitor is not very scary. What am I looking at here? Oh, I was checking how much damage the DPS potion did. Yeah. Not very much as a bear. Finish off the Inquisitor. I think we end up moving a little bit to get some better prideful positioning. And then we focus on that prideful going into the last boss. Not too much going on here. And don't be afraid to just blast defensive cooldowns during prideful. It is, in most dungeons, the scariest overall point for a lot of the DPS players. It's not super scary for me as the tank, but for DPS players, there's not many other points where you would definitely need to use defensives. So just keep that in mind and feel free to use defensives to make your healer's life a little bit easier there. So we have the final boss here. Note that those statues, they will always face the direction they're going to fly in when he picks a single statue. Also, note here that we're doing a double soak. If you notice, I stand directly between the statues, the hunter stands directly between the other two, and we're soaking all of them. You'll see storming sometimes prevents you from doing this in the next set. Otherwise, though, it's a very good strat on non-storming week. So you see that statue where it's facing is always the direction it gets shot in. You can look at the next one as well to see where... Oh, he's going to door shadows again. I lied. This one has some bad stormings. Yeah, so we have to soak individually here. It gets slightly scuffed, I believe. Yeah, with the additional storming, but it's okay. So Stigma of Pride, that's a very scary dot for your tank. It ramps up in damage over the duration, so you always want to make sure, at least for the last 6 to 10 seconds, you have some sort of cooldown. I tend to just hold Barkskin for the first few seconds of it, and then pop it when there's 12 seconds left. So the Barkskin is there for the entire duration. But obviously, depending on your tank, you'll have to do different things. And on Tyrannical Week, that can get especially scary. But we're able to get him down pretty quickly. That is it, though. That's it for me on this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer. Or you can pop by my stream on Twitch while I'm pushing keys and ask there. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you all in the next video.